Are we ready? Great. I'm Jan. I work in the European Environment Agency already for 28 years. And I know Ulf for 10 years.
Yeah, and I've been a FME nerd for a little bit more than 25 years, so pretty much sums it up.
So, yeah, and so every crappy problem I have that I don't understand, I go to Ulf, and he goes to Sweco and figures it out, how to solve it, and then they come with a big plan. And that's one of the things that we're going to show here today is exactly that. Huh? So yeah, European Environment Agency, it's a body of the European Union. It's an agency that is purely dealing with environment. And if you read the bottom part, it mainly means that we are kind of a data center for the European Union, but also for everybody that delivers towards us, which are the countries. And yeah, we are about 300 people in Copenhagen, 38 countries that work with us, and about 482 institutions. So a lot of experts that are working with us. Ulf was asking me, where is England?
Yeah.
And I told him it's the climate change, the water rised up.
It hasn't to do with Brexit or
somehow
something.
They are under the water at the moment, but well, you know about Brexit and stuff like that, but that's the real reason. And I'm a very bad designer, so the line which I put was too thin, so that's why it kind of disappears, but it is there. Yeah. So, and these are the domains that EA is working in, and they're changing once in a while. So, but it's about 200 data sets that we are collecting ourselves from all these countries. And then, of course, there are many other EU institutions or world organizations that we are trying to get data of. We don't want to make too much effort to the countries. It's already enough with this 200. So if we can get the data somewhere else, that's what we do, basically, right?
It's a lot of data.
Yeah.
A lot of FME.
It's all about data because we, every 5 years, need to produce a report, state of the environment. I mean, if you cannot fall asleep, perfect thing to put next to you, read a chapter, but it's interesting as well. I mean, it's a really, really a cool report. And in 2 years, we will make a new one, actually. So, so we are preparing ourselves to get there. So we use FME like many others, get data from the countries, and then we go to this extracting and quality control and cleansing and conforming, and we're using all kinds of software. I couldn't put them all on it, but these are the big ones. ArcGIS is also there, and we are using them for map services, ArcGIS Online, and stuff like that. So, and our server, we have a big server. I don't know if it's the biggest one. I hope it's the biggest one, but 55,000 jobs per day.
Big jobs.
Big jobs. It's not like little jobs, but really like
IoT stuff. Real data.
So 56 FME engines and great fun. But if it goes down, we're in troubles because then if it's one day down, we have to catch up. So that's really the tough thing. So we are really, when every upgrade happens, we have to test a lot and try things out before we actually really publish it. Yeah. So this is an interesting slide. And maybe, Dean, you will get angry with me, but XML and shape, they're kind of disappearing on us. It's, it seems to be there are other ways of doing things. What you can see here is basically the kind of format we are using for tabular data and the format that are used for spatial data. And it's always like a combination of what countries deliver to us. What is very interesting is that GeoPackage is growing, and CSV with well-known text is growing. So these are the kind of things we are seeing. And the main reason for this is the large amount of data that's coming in, because every data set is growing and growing and growing. So in the past, we got air quality aggregated per day. Now we aggregate per hour, and so on. So you get millions of records, billions of records. Why Eurostat reader? Why does the Environment Agency is selling the data of another EU institution? Purely because they are our biggest partner, let's say, for statistical data. And we wanted basically to have a reader that is standard for everybody, that is used in, using FME and EA. We have about 45 form editors now that are doing things, so we don't want them to do it all differently. And that's why we built this reader. And I give now to Ulf, who is the master in this.
Got to keep the tempo up. So we were talking about something even more fun than XML and metadata. Statistics, everyone loves statistics. So Eurostat, they have a lot of data flows and data series you can download. That's more than 7,000. We have checked that with FME, the number there. They also have statistics about statistics. So this is the top list. I think the most requested data series is about the inflation rates. And about this Eurostat package that we put together, a lot with SAFE's help for EEA, we try to mimic the browsing capabilities on the web within FME. So a colleague of mine, he figured out this way to use the select file from web in FME to be able to really browse all these 7,000 data flows online. And you can pull them just like that in FME by searching for them. You can either search or browse for them to get it online. So what are some sample use cases for this? And in this case, I'm just pulling one data set, looking at statistics. And this is climate-related costs for things that happen, like hurricanes and so on. So we look at statistics for a few countries. Randomly, Denmark, where you have the office, and Sweden, where I'm coming from, and also the average in the European Union. And you can see you have, for Finland, which is, Denmark, but that is the green one, that we have some peaks looking back here. This is visualized in a tool called Gapminder, by the way, if you want to visualize statistics. Really easy to write with FME to that one. So here what happened, we asked ChatGPT, of course, there was a cyclone in 1999. Another one in 2013, you can see there is a little peak there. And now I cannot do this question I've always wanted to do. What happened in Sweden? And that was in 2005, the Hurricane Gudrun. And I know this very well because we actually used FME quite a lot during this hurricane. So this is from an FME conference like more than 16, 17 years ago. So we've been using that.
It's like FME and FME. Huh?
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, awesome.
Doing that. But also, this was a really serious hurricane that kind of wiped out the electrical network in the south of Sweden. And now for something completely different.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out. Well, it was Ulf who said there is this pig meat that is, I mean, so much being eaten in Denmark or consumed in Denmark, and he wanted to know, does Eurostat have statistics?
Yeah, we've heard this rumor they produce a lot of bacon and stuff like that. So we thought, can we check this? Is that true? And sure, there is on Eurostat, there is a series for pig meat production for every country and year and data, and we have population. So we put both of those in there.
Together. Yeah.
And we do a little FME fancy joining these and averaging out the pig meat production per habitant in each country. And true.
Denmark is the highest and Belgium second. I was really a bit shocked about that. But yeah, so, and then Spain and all our consultants and we are, so it's like there's some relationship here with consultants and EA. I don't know why, but anyway. Yeah.
But kind of the point here is that there is a vast amount of different data series there where you can enrich your own data sets with this. But here, this was just a demonstration what you can get.
Yeah, but it's exactly that. It's the fact that you can combine this with your own data, especially if you're from the European area, then it's great to actually add these extra parameters on top of your data and then enrich your data set. And that is what we in EA also are doing.
And it's also free.
Yeah, all the data is for free. We put the whole thing also on GitHub, so you can read how Sweco, Ulf and team has done this. So use it in order to play with it and find out what is useful for you and make your own, I think. But it's well documented as well, so it's quite easy to install. When you open your form, search for Eurostat, and they will be there. So have fun and enjoy it.
So, speedy presentation.
Yes.
And does anyone have any questions for Jan and Ulf? So I have one, and I know the answer, but I think it's worth sharing. Is there a way to spatially enable, like all this stuff is without geometry, but some of it would have implied geometry somehow. So is there some way to actually put some of this on a map?
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll explain.
Yeah, I'll explain. I mean, a majority of the data do have something called a nuts code. Nuts geometries.
Yeah.
Not crazy geometries,
Yeah.
it's a statistical term. You know,
Nomenclature
division.
regions, whatever. Yeah.
And Eurostat hosts those geometries as well. So you can, there is actually a helper transformer for this to download the correct version because it's time dependent. You know, regions change over the time. So if you want to do a spatial analysis, you have to get the right one and merge that in there.
It's also an easy way if you have just tabular data, but you have it related to a nuts region or a code or just point data and you want to color that in. It's a great data set from Eurostat to do these kind of things.
So you said the thing about, was it nuts?
Yeah.
So how far does that, what sort of coding is that down to? Is that?
It's up to nuts level 3. So that's like, what's it called? Commune level.
Yeah, municipality maybe, something like that.
So does that mean Ulf could move it into Minecraft and map out all the pig locations in Minecraft instead?
Yeah, you could do that actually, yeah.
Definitely
You should ask Peter Segerstedt to build that for us.
Yeah, we should do that.
It's true.
Would be better, you know.
Would be great.
Good for schools. So.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Then you have that one.
Hi everybody, let me introduce Martin Koch from Tenzing. He's calling himself the GIS evangelist at Tenzing for FME, and he will tell us how to deploy your FME integration within 10 minutes through Azure Pipelines.
So I first want to thank Conterra and Safe for hosting this on this side of the globe. Near to my hometown, it's fabulous. Well, talking about me and my home and what I do, as you said, my official job title is Geospatial Evangelist at Tenzing. That's the only job you can't apply for, you get asked. And it gives me 16 billable hours a week to help my colleagues excel at using the FME platform in the solutions they build at clients. The other 24 hours I have to do work as a consultant, which I also love to do, of course. So that's my role at Tenzing. And yeah, while working, at least on this side of the globe, we often use Azure DevOps for our Scrum needs. You know, the PBIs, the tickets, the tasks, the meetings, the burn down graphs, which always go wrong. And in this Azure DevOps, you also have this button. Anyone knows this button? Yeah? Well, ever clicked on it? I did, and it starts off quite welcoming, you know, it's quite friendly looking. But when you go any further, it suddenly starts getting quite intimidating. I mean, I know it from a ZX Spectrum game in the early days, like the Byte magazine, we had an Ant attack game, and whoa, and that's a functioning on Kubernetes. I really like to do that one, but not today, yeah, so it's intimidating. Actually, my idea was, I had too many options. What does it actually do, these pipelines? Look at it. I mean, this mushroom-infused picture, like album art, is actually how Microsoft themselves picture Azure DevOps. What does it do? I mean, and finally, of course, the million-dollar question, how does it fit in my workflow? Well, so it really took me almost 2 years before I did bite the bullet. And the whole means of this presentation is that you are not going to wait 2 years, but actually the next Friday, when you have some hours to spend before the weekend starts, just start tinkering with it. And that's, I hope, to inspire you to do. So, I want to focus mostly on pipelines. I mean, this, when you know the drop-down menu, you know this one, this pipelines. I'm mainly going to focus on that one. That's the big chunk. As you see, you start there. And I'll touch a little bit on the releases, because when you got to the end, it's quite easy. So, pipelines, what do they do? Well, they automate, and we FME people love to automate things. So, pipelines actually some trigger and mostly pushing a commit from your repository will trigger a script which is running on an agent, which is by default some anonymous vanilla Linux box which is spun up in Azure, in the Azure cloud. Well, can this deploy FME? Let's find out. I've made some changes in the workspace. I can simply see by using the workspace compare function in FME 2023, which now nicely integrates with Git, as you will see. Yeah, see I removed the two loggers here. Now, I'm going to push this to the remote repository. This will trigger the pipeline, and the YAML script in the pipeline will, on its part, trigger all the small Python snippets which do actually the heavy lifting of deploying the workspace and running a test. Let's go to the pipeline. It's running demo take 3. Right, and let's see if the job has been run. Yes, it just ran. As you see, you can use an Azure pipeline to deploy an FME integration to your FME server and have it tested. On with the presentation in BAM. A risk. First, let me tell you how we at Tenzing sort of tend to organize our FME work, because that's key to being able to deploy it. Actually, for us, it's key to actually working with FME, but we do our workspaces and a custom transformer or two. We put them nicely in folders, organize them, and everything we make on FME Flow, we put in an FME Flow project. We don't put our workspaces in the project because then you have two truths in the same repository. So we have the workspaces on one side which you can edit, and everything apart from the things you make in form, we make in a project, and that's also in the repository downloaded. And then we use the REST API and some Python to publish that whole shebang. Yeah, and if you want to do it on Azure, let's start. When you type in that long list, you saw at the beginning, it's intimidating list. When you type Python over there, it already gets a lot shorter. And I mean, as a Dutchman, I love Python. Some people have that with the national football team. I have that with Python. It comes from the Netherlands, yeah, and it rules the world. So Python I like, and then you can use these. You say Python script. Hey, run a Python script. So when it's a little bit tricky to do this in the GUI because you need to make sure that your cursor is at the right spot and you have the indentation in the YAML file right. But in this case, when there's a trigger, when on main there's a commit, I start up our FME server because that's the cloud is cheap when you always start up and shut down when you need it. But when you leave it running for 24 hours, you really go bankrupt on it. So I start our server, I deploy our workspaces. I do a little test, and then I normally would shut down our server again because I don't need it anymore. And those Python things, when you try this out at home, how do I make those little Python snippets? Because they really are at this moment, it's really a proof of concept. You use the REST API, and there you can find all kinds of information which call you have to do. And then you use Postman, a well-known tool. Dave also loves it, so I love that he loves it. Dale loves it. And then you have this little button, and it gives you the Python snippet to exactly do the same thing. So you can simply copy and paste that into a .py file, and you're done. You need to use the HTTP client. As I said, it's a vanilla Linux box, so it doesn't have the nice requests library, so yeah, you have to do it this way. Now, well, when you've got this running, and normally it will, you still have to do some stuff to really make this into a workflow which you can use in your project. Firstly, of course, you want to have your own agent. I mean, Microsoft supports you have remote agents, they call, which are remote from their point of view, so they're local at your infrastructure, so you can deploy to your local in-house FME Flow instance, and you can also install the tooling you need, so you don't have to put your Python code in your repository, which is, of course, messy. And also what you want to do is integrate it with the whole Azure DevOps flow. And that's where the release pipelines come in. Because the build pipelines they got all the fancy YAML stuff, and the release pipelines are just there to, they integrate much better with the card, so you can have somebody authorize the release to the next stage in the development chain and such, and have them have a card and then say, okay, yes, and then have it done. And there's always one more thing. I always have one more thing. You know, this is sort of the whole structure on which it's based. I mean, you need to think C++, C#, and all those things. And they really have to link all the libraries, and they do all the compiling, do the unit testing. And that's the build pipeline. So the build pipeline, that has all the fancy YAML stuff. You can include, parameterize, conditionalize, everything. And then you end up with a working, tested, shippable product, and Azure calls that an artifact. Then this artifact goes into the release pipelines. And those release pipelines are not that fancy, you don't have that many possibilities, only the integration with, hey, yeah, Jan says it's all right, so we're going to acceptance. Yeah. So this is the way it's working. And now only focus on the build pipelines because, yeah, I want to do something with HTTP and some, all those things. But actually, what is the tested, ready, shippable, deployable product on FME? What's the artifact which we have, which can be built, which is built and can be deployed? Well, that's of course the FME Server project. But how do I make programmatically an FME Server project from all the things I combined on my first server? I want to have that in a project so I can download it and deploy it to the next. I want to do it programmatically, and I couldn't do that in REST API version 4. But when I was one day scrolling through the Tomcat SS log, I started noticing that we got the API v4 everywhere. Yeah, so I sort of guesstimated the Sweco page for that, and there I have, and I hope I now got it. I got the projects. And here, with this, I can really combine a complete project from all the parts I have through REST. Really, my heart was filled with joy, really. Yeah. So we're done. That's the way we're going to do it. Thank you. Any questions? I hope I've raised a lot of questions. I'm very willing to answer them.
We've set up a flavor of this in Staden with your, so we've set up a flavor of this in Staden with your colleagues, Steph.
Yeah.
But I think we're putting everything into the project, including the workspace. What is the advantage or disadvantage of doing that?
When you put everything in the project, then you have the workspaces zipped and closed in the project, and you have the workspaces in the editable form in a folder. So you have two truths together, and that's always that's messy. Simply, I mean, it works, but it doesn't feel right. You know?
I think we need to look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just end with this slide. It's so good.
Hi, Martin.
Hello.
Goedemorgen. I've seen that FME, the new version, also has like connections to replacing the database connections. Did you try that as well with the DevOps?
No, I'm just going for those new parameter things. Having your FME server have a what is it called? Yeah, deployment, but it has a vault. It has a vault for all your local needed parameters. So that's what I would go for in this.
So you didn't try the new replace database connections tool?
No. When I need to have a new database connection, I simply add it using a project.
All right.
And kick it off to the next. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, it's kind of the same question, actually, and I'm just trying to get my head around this, but our goal, and maybe we can do this, is if you commit something to the DevOps repository, a workspace, that it would deploy into two different FME servers, our production UAT, and take advantage of these deployment parameters to access the correct database in each environment. That would be the dream. Is there a way to that? through this mechanism?
Well, I currently standing here with the white light shining in my face. I can't fully grasp the problem you're facing. We've had all kinds of ways to deal with differences in environments. In the early days, we actually we mostly use some sort of an ini file, and from which we read everything we need, which is locally stored on Flow. And we referred to the ini file for this environment in all our workspaces. But as I said, I'm curious if this parameter thingy will solve your problem, or what's actually...
No, we do something like that too, and I think these deployment parameters, like I just heard about it really yesterday actually from Matt, but, and I guess Stuart is presenting on it.
You should also go to 10 o'clock. He's going to do his take on this subject. And I hope his demo works.
But it does seem like there's maybe a nice workflow to be had here where someone can commit and they don't necessarily have to go through the process of publishing a workspace. But I guess.
No.
We're working with published parameters for now, with a little workaround.
Yeah.
Rewrite as they say to ERD.
Yeah.
But when we upgrade to 2023, we hope to...
I've done that as well, but only in 2016, 2015, just to simply do a text search and replace your FMW file. No, that's no.
We're doing that as a pipeline parameter.
Oh yeah. Oh, but with these pipelines, you can really go wild. I mean, the pipeline I wanted to show already contained when you deploy when you push to one repository, one branch, it does something different as when you push to the other branch. That's it's amazing. I mean, I wish you all a fun time with that. Yeah.
I think my questions, or there's two questions. One a little one, one's a slightly big one, is related to what both these guys have asked. But my first question is this productionized anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, but that's what I said. Martin is working with this big client of. I mean, this is not something I would do if I was for a 4-day quick job at a client I don't know. But we also are at clients with a team, and we already are working there for years. And we're not only doing DevOps there, like maintaining, doing development as well as just maintenance. And then this really is. The way to go.
So what I understand you've demoed is a process where you've sort of checked the differences in a workspace, and then you've automated the process where that's sort of packaged up and deployed to an FME flow for testing and then spun down.
Yeah.
But how does that get into a productionized environment from then once that test's complete? Like, is this typically a containerized production, and does it override the...
No, it's simply, I mean, it's only the things you configure on FME Flow. So how your flow is, the way you host your flow instances doesn't matter. I mean, it's really only the things you build with the GUI on Flow and with form and deploy there and all those things. Those are put in the package. And then you can simply deploy them to the next environment. Okay. And you can also say, hey, all right, I'm mostly only responsible till test. And then somebody else wants to take over because he or she is responsible for acceptance production.
Mm-hmm. Cool. No, cool. Thank you.
And the cool thing is, I mean, one important thing is with this having a Git repository, we can also revert to a previous version when things go wrong. So, the one time you need that, it really provides for all the costs of having done it for years.
The question is, like, as far as I understand, later you are publishing projects to your FME server because the projects contain the additional information for a workspace in which repository is it stored on FME server, in which services is it registered, like the data download service or the data streaming service. Maybe if you have multiple writers in the workspace, which of those writers do do you select to be integrated in your data download service? So this is the last step if you are doing it manually via the form desktop. So how did you manage to store this information in your repository to be able to publish the workspace to FME server? Because there is some information, if you do a manual publishing process with FME desktop, you have to go through several steps and choose something like...
That's quite, I would say it's quite easy. You can, in a modern FME flow, you can simply set it to REST as well. And of course, when it gets a bit bigger, you have a configuration file telling the Python things what to do. So you simply have added.
You have for each like workspace file, you have a YAML file also in your repo to get this.
No, actually, one of the things is that you. There's also, it used to be something stored in the workspace itself. So when you have published it once and then it knows it also needs a streaming service. But now you can also simply do that with the REST call. When you publish the workspace through REST, you can also say it is a streaming service. And that you can configure. You configure all the needed services with all the workspaces. When you have a configuration file saying this workspace needs these services, you can simply make some JSON list with key value per workspace name, needed services, these, and then your Python will pick that up and simply add those things. That's also why you should not do your Python deployment thingies in your Git as well, but have somebody else with some more Python knowledge write them for you.
So, Martin, thank you for sharing your work with us.
It's done, it worked. Thank you. It started out server, it deployed, yes. And it didn't stop the server because I want to use it. Here it is. Thank you for the tip.
Thanks, Martin.